congratulations on this. It is you incorporated true crime and supernatural. How was it bringing that to the screen?
Oh man, it was a blast. Um, so I'm honestly not the biggest true crime fan. My wife is a huge true crime fan, but I'm a massive supernatural fan and horror fan. So, um, playing in that world of true crime podcasts and how everybody wants to make them and everybody
Mhm.
seems to be making them, and then getting to mix that with really silly horror aspects was an absolute blast.
Definitely, it seemed like it was so much fun to shoot. How were things on set? How did these jokes come about? Was it written? Was it improv? What was the magic element in this?
Oh man, well let's see. So we're pretty close to what's in the script. Every now and then, there's a little bit of improv. For the most part, most of the jokes were in the script. Because it's a little indie film, we didn't have any time. Usually what we would do is I'd be like, okay, first take, let's just get what's in the script. And then let's get it again if we need to get it again or something like that. And then if we have time, we'll do an improv take. Most of the time, we didn't have time for the improv take, but every now and then, and there's a few really good improv lines. Cooper has some really awesome ones. He plays Eddie, and Brian has some really good ones as well. But for the most part, it's what's in the script. And shooting it was wild because it was everything was so fast. It was very much just like this is what we're shooting today. Go, 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 go. Let's shoot 8 pages. Let's shoot 12 pages, and then tomorrow let's wake up, let's do the same thing. So it was a ride to say the least.
It sounds like it. The story of Esmeralda, is that something that you had heard before, or is that something you guys came up with?
Okay, so I was in Maine shooting a documentary, and I met this guy who had just come from Salem, and he'd been, I guess, over to see some of the witch graves and stuff like that. And he was telling me that there's this tradition where they put a coin on the grave to like keep the spirits at bay or whatever. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a really cool idea for a horror movie. So when I got home, I started researching it, and I could only find like one article like saying that this was a thing. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it's still a really cool idea for a movie. So I just ran with it, and then the Esmeralda thing that just popped into my name or popped into my head because I was like, that's a cool older name. So, but yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but it works well for our movie. Oh, I might have lost you there.
Definitely did. I think it was one of the more eye-catching uh, topics. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Let me know when you can hear me.
Let's see. I can hear bits and pieces. It's kind of going in and out.
Good. Cool. Yeah.
Let's see. I got you now. Yeah.
The Esmeralda part and the coin in particular are very eye-catching. Interesting. Esmeralda part is very eye-catching. How was it trying to capture that? Because it's such a small coin. Like, how was it difficult to make the actors really look at that, or how did you direct them in order to make that so visible?
Well, it sounds way too easy, but literally what I did so the first person we shot actually interacting with the coin was Nicole, who plays Jake's mom in the movie. And so I looked at her and I was like, okay, so the coin's gonna be like kind of compelling you and bringing you in. And then I was like, you know what? Have you seen Lord of the Rings? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, pretend that's the ring. And she goes, okay, got it. And like, it's just kind of, I was like, that's the easiest way to get across exactly what it needs to do. It needs to be like a source of compelling evilness that you're like, oh, I'm curious. I want to, it's almost possessing you.
That is very interesting. And you talked about working in Maine. What is it about Maine that just makes things like creepy and pop?
Dude, I have no idea. I blame Stephen King.
Is Stephen King one of the inspirations behind this? Because it has that very dramatic, suspenseful feel to the film.
Heck yeah. Well, I mean, definitely It, like the movie It from 2017, which is Stephen King, was a pretty big inspiration. When I was originally pitching the movie, I was pitching it as It mixed with Pineapple Express. I don't know if it ended up being that, but that's what I was pitching it as. So yeah, we definitely had some inspiration there. And I do like how in a lot of the Stephen King stuff. It's almost got like a Spielberg-esque like vibe, and then really scary stuff. So
Definitely. And with your cast, they all seem so enthusiastic about doing these roles. What was that feel like? What for you as a director, what is it like to have a cast like that?
oh man, it's fantastic. So I actually wrote the script with a few of the actors already in mind. So like Andrew, our lead, I wrote it with him in mind for playing Chad Thadwick. Cooper, I wrote it with him in mind to play Eddie. I'd done a short with the two of them not that long ago, and I was like, they would be really great together as like in this role. It turned out they were perfect. Levi, who played Officer Stashburn, I wrote with him in mind as well, and he just fit it so well. So I think that helps when you're thinking of who's going to be playing this person while you're writing the script. It just helps everything kind of mesh together a whole lot better. But man, I couldn't ask for a better cast. They were all fantastic.
Definitely, and it comes out off on screen. Um, for you as a director, what was the most difficult part? Well, not just the director, but also I'm guessing the producer and the writer. What was some of the obstacles in making this?
Let's see here. In terms of actual production, I think as far as like making this shooting each day wasn't that much different than making a short. But the thing is, you're making a short every day for 2 weeks. I mean, that's the difference. It's a full marathon of like your brain always has to be on. You always have to be able to answer questions. Like you got to be thinking 8 steps ahead all the time. So it was exhausting. And I think because we weren't doing any editing on set, because I edited the movie, we weren't doing dailies or anything like that. There was definitely a little bit of like, well, is this working? I was like, are we getting the stuff that we need? I don't really know. So I think once we wrapped, like I knew we'd shot something good, but I wasn't sure what it was. And it wasn't until I started cutting it together that I was like, oh, this all worked. Like this totally worked. What I was thinking worked, which is a very awesome feeling. But yeah, I think I was surprised with how much the actual directing the movie took out of me. I was like, man, I was beat for a couple of weeks.
Wow. And this ending, without giving away any spoilers, is really funny. It's incredible. It's an incredible little ending that I did not expect.
Thank you.
Was that always the idea? Was it always going to end up at that point in the car?
Oh, yes, very much. That was fully based off of kind of this. I hope this won't spoil it or anything really, but I'd always kind of when I related it to indie film a little bit. And one of the first shorts that I shot with my friend. It was on like a Canon T3i. We just gotten a manual lens for it. It was super exciting. Shot this whole thing, and we finished it. We went to go look at it. The entire thing was out of focus, and I was just like, no.
Wow.
So pretty much it was a love letter to that, to where like you can be so passionate and still you gotta respect the craft.
Definitely. And this follows the making of a podcast. How similar is this to the making of this movie?
Very similar. Very similar. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's just, filmmaking in general. You try really hard. You make stuff you're super proud of. You don't always get the audience that you want or think that you might deserve, So there's a lot of that paralleling with them making this podcast that they love, that they're getting no views or no plays, really. I think, being overly ambitious is fully one of those things, especially when you're a new filmmaker. I made a short film once that had a huge cross-country sequence, and it was going to be like hundreds of people and all this stuff, and we shot on 35 millimeter film. Didn't end up finishing it, like couldn't even make the whole thing because it was way too ambitious. But through that, I learned how to write an ultra-low budget movie, which is how we got the Murder Podcast. But I think there's a lot of that stuff that kind of parallels with two guys trying to make a podcast. It's really anyone trying to create anything. In a digital age, you want like sponsorships. We want stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun to parallel that.
Yeah, definitely. What you accomplish in giving that feel of like you said, wanting that audience that you don't really get. Congratulations on that. It is an amazing watch. It is really fun. It's funny. It's at points very like thrilling. So congratulations. It's a really good film to watch.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much, man. I'm glad you liked it.